Hey, I'm CJ and welcome back to Station Wagoner. Today we got something a little special for you. I'm going to go back through all the cool old classic cars I've had since, I got in the cars. Back in the good old days where they were still all over the place and you could go knock on doors and get them for a couple $100. Wasn't all that long ago, but it actually kind of was by now. Wish we could have had, knew we should have had video recorders back then, back when we were young and dumb and having fun. But I never really worked on any cars until my first pure stock when I was 14, which was an '83 Chevy Monte Carlo. Ended up winning the last race of the 2007 season.
By spring of 2009, I was gaining much more interest in old cars and also wanted to try Poor Man's racing at the Sawyer County Fairgrounds. That's when I found this 1978 Oldsmobile Cutlass out in the woods at my girlfriend's dad's house. So he gave me the car. She had no keys or title and was quite rusty. By the time I was at his house again, he had it pulled up to the garage with the ignition and steering locks already broke free. In no time we had that Oldsmobile 260 cubic inch V8 running. At this point in my life at 16 years old, I was pretty much on my own, with my dad being in and out of jail the rest of his life. Henry taught me lots of new things, such as replacing rusted transmission cooler lines with hose and replacing brake lines. I remember being confused that the starter and oil filter were on the opposite sides of what I was used to with the small block Chevys in my race car and truck, and began to learn the difference between the two different engine types. I tried to make it look cool as possible, like a real race car, and even attempted to weld a full roll cage in it when I had no idea what I was doing. In the spring of 2010 came the Chick Magnet, a 1981 Lincoln Continental that I picked up for $500. I think we had 6 people in it the day I got it, going 100 miles per hour on Colbroth Road back behind the house. This was supposed to be my first demolition derby car, which I had a newfound interest in thanks to my best friend Kyle. We had lots of fun beating on the car until it blew up with a huge cloud of smoke after doing a massive posy burnout and holding it wide open in first gear all the way up the long driveway. That was a really cool, clean car and was my first experience with a Ford. After that I ended up getting a late 80s pre-ran Crown Vic that I wasn't able to get running, and pretty soon it was 2 weeks till the Derby. That's when I found the car on Craigslist that truly began my love for classic cars. This 1986 Buick Electra estate wagon drove 3 hours home for $500. It was so beautiful, rust-free, ran perfect and rode like couch. This was the first time in my life experiencing the amazing, smooth, quiet ride of an old luxury car. It also sparked my love for station wagons. I enjoyed driving it around town for a day before I had to begin stripping it and preparing it for the Derby. I ended up taking 3rd place in the 2010 Sawyer County Fair Demolition Derby, and the car eventually competed in 5 total derbies. The number 39 pink car next to me is Kyle in a 1985 Buick Electra that he traded this early 70s Buick for that he got for $100 because we were only allowed to run 80s cars then. That 80s Chevy wagon was also around for a few years. In 2011, my buddy Chisar bought this 1985 Crown Victoria Ltd. There were no keys and I had to hold a screwdriver in the perfect position on the steering column to keep it running while he drove it a half-hour home. Also in 2011 I bought this 1988 Chevy Caprice for $250 for my next derby car. The transmission barely worked and it didn't run that great. We had some fun driving it around before building it, and it kicked off love for old cars for my buddy Abe, who bought this beautiful Caprice not long after riding in mine, and also some cool Pontiacs eventually. We did a lot of work on this car in my senior year high school autos class. We swapped out the 700R4 transmission with a good used one from Kessler's Auto Salvage, pulled out the computer-controlled distributor and carburetor and replaced them with an HEI and the good old Quadrajet from my race car because we had to run a Holly 2-barrel that season. She was ripper. I spent a lot of time building this car and ran it in 3 derbies. Winter of 2012 I bought this 1984 Buick Regal for $200 that was being daily driven by my coworker until the 3.8-liter V6 locked up in the McDonald's parking lot one night. I put an awesome running 350 Chevy in it out of this 1980 square body that I paid like $250 for. We had to put a new starter in it the day we bought it to drive it onto the trailer and never even had to touch the carb. I wanted to have a cool classic driver, so I made look like a street-legal race car. The turbo 350 transmission I put in it would randomly puke a bunch of fluid out of it after shutting it off. I enjoyed this thing for a few years before selling it in 2015, but then bought it back a few months later. I then sold it again and bought it back again and turned into an ice racer in 2016 for one race, then sold it for the last time. Then it was time to finally get into ice racing, so I bought this piece of junk 1992 Chevy Caprice for $250 from the same place that I got the square body from. I built this car and the '88 Caprice using a old stick welder chisel gave to me plugged into the dryer outlet out of the basement window. Boy, if them days were recorded. Newport also built a late 90s Crown Victoria cop car that we ended up sharing for the 2013 season after a rough first outing in the Caprice. I did a lot of work on the Caprice for the 2014 and 2015 seasons. In 2013, we bought this mint 1980 Buick wagon from Kessler's for $500 with no motor because Newport had already bought that the year before for his 1983 Olds Cutlass that we have no pictures of. I sold this car that summer. Picked up this sweet 1985 Monte Carlo from Hayward Auto Salvage for $500 in 2013 after watching it sit there for 2 years with the driver window down. It was probably rust-free before then. I ended up using the body for the last reskin on my first race car for the 2014 and 15 season. It also had to what appeared to be a recently rebuilt running 350 with headers and an Edelbrock, which ended up in my Caprice Ice Racer for the 2014 season after blowing up the throttle body 305 that was in. That motor was very impressive, and the story behind it and that whole car will always be a mystery. Got this 1978 Monte Carlo fall of 2013 for no good reason. Got it running and driving and pulled the 305 and turbo 350 out and sold the car. The transmission ended up going in the Caprice Ice Racer behind the 350 from the '85 Monte Carlo. Fall of 2014, this 1967 Oldsmobile Toronado basket case, got it mostly together and running and sold it. The 385 horsepower 425 ripped for a minute. Around the same time bought this 1981 Cadillac Eldorado, which was mint besides the front after hitting a deer. It had that junk cylinder deactivation fuel injected V8 in it. I think I paid $500 for each of these front-wheel drive V8s and sold them for about the same. It was just fun to play with them for a bit, then needed the money not too long after. Paid $200 for this 1981 Caprice in 2015. Drove it home with no brakes and a bad cam. '79 Monte Carlo bought from a tow yard in 2015 for $500. It looked a lot better than it was. Another $500 G-body in 2015, Malibu wagon with running newer 350. Partially traded it for a 1980 Chevy motorhome. This 1978 Buick Limited was given to Newport for graduation. He daily drove it and it was his favorite car ever till I bought it and sold it. Had this piece of shit 1971 Chevelle for a bit in the late fall of 2015. In 2016 I just had to have this like '67 Cadillac limo. Motor was locked up. Ended up dragging it across town with the locked up rear wheels on the road to the scrapyard cause it was too big to fit on my race trailer. In 2017 we got this 1982 Buick Regal wagon and 1981 Pontiac for free. They both had Olds 350 diesels. I used the wagon roof on my 2019 race car. Had this 1976 Buick Century for a bit in 2017. And drove this $200 1985 Chevy Impala all the way across Rice Lake with the transmission stuck in high gear. It had a 4.3 fuel-injected V6. This 1989 Chevy Caprice police car was fun until I realized it only had first and second gear driving it home. I think this was like a '92 custom cruiser bubble wagon I drove home. I ran my pretty much last full-size demo derby in this 1981 Chevy Impala wagon in 2017. It had a 267 cubic inch small block Chevy, something I never knew about till then. My 2018 race car was built out of this 1973 Olds Cutlass. I had this 1971 Caddy for a bit in 2018 before partially trading it for a mint-running but rusty 1987 Chevy Caprice that I only have this short video of. Spring of 2019, I really wanted a good old-school driver again and found this 1979 Pontiac Bonneville with a 301 for $500 complete with a wood bumper. I painted it black and enjoyed it for a good year. Cody had that 80s Buick and 78 Buick around the same time, and this is when we started this channel and have a video on these cars called B-Body Nation, also featuring this 80s Caprice wagon I got for free cause a tree fell on it. In 2020 I picked up this very rough 1971 Oldsmobile Delta 98 for $600 and sold the 455 for $700. Also a late 80s Caddy I don't even remember where it came from. In 2020 I also picked up my beautiful 1967 Pontiac Catalina. It's the coolest car I've ever had and still have it today. There's also a video of this car and all the rest of them to the end of the video here on Station Wagner. In 2021 I traded this pretty mint 1992 Chevy Lumina for this pretty cool and fun 1978 Chevy Nova.
Yeah. It's got some parts though. Doors are mint.
Check out the video on this 81 Buick LeSabre from 2022. Also have had this 79 Cadillac Eldorado for a few years now and haven't done much with it yet. Kyle and I found this beautiful 82 LTD Crown Victoria in 2023 for $850. After getting it running and cleaned up we sold it for $1,500. It only had like 30,000 original miles. This clean G body crew cab, rusty 66 Buick Riviera, and 92 Buick Roadmaster were all saved while scrap hunting in 2023. This 1968 Chevelle wagon bought in 2018 and this 70s Monte Carlo bought in 2021 combined into my awesome pure stock race car in 2024. Here's a few leftovers from some of my buddies and I through the years. I really hope you enjoyed this and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. As always, thanks for watching.